Hey guys, welcome back. I'm going to now show you how to make a very simple butternut squash soup with some red lentils. Few ingredients but maximum flavor. Let me show you how. I'm going to first start off by talking about the ingredients what I have here. So I'm going to use red lentils here. Now these are red lentils which are without the skin. Now the best way to make lentils is to actually wash them off the dirt and then soak them for a good hour or so. Now if you have a pressure cooker at home, then it makes it a bit more easier. But if you don't have a pressure cooker, use a normal heavy bottom but a high pan or a high pot. I like to soak my lentils for a good 6 hours at least. After washing it 3 or 4 times, removing the dirt, you then soak it into water for a good 6 hours. So what that does, it begins to swell up or make the lentils softer. And in that case, what happens is it helps your lentils to cook faster. Now I'm using red lentils here, but you can use red lentils, you can use yellow lentils, you can use chickpeas in that if you want. You can use pigeon peas, you can use anything. You can use any kind of a lentil which you like to make the soup, and it works extremely well. The red lentil is one of the most or the lightest lentils one can have. So I'm going to have almost equal parts of red lentils. And in this, I am going to add butternut squash. Now I'm using butternut squash, but if you don't have butternut squash, you can actually use pumpkin, you can use carrots, you can use potatoes. I just find the butternut squash has got a very nice flavor of its own and really brings it, has its own flavor and dimension and makes it very interesting. What I will also add in this is a sliced onion and some green chili. I've got ginger and garlic paste. I'm going to add that into it. And I've got 2 spice powders here. I'm going to use turmeric powder and I'm going to use red chili powder. Now again, the red chili gives it a kick, a little bit of color, and the turmeric actually gives it a kind of a yellowish dye or the natural color into your soup, which is quite nice and pleasing to have. So all that goes in. And in this, I'm going to add 1 single herb, which is rosemary. Now, rosemary and butternut squash or pumpkin goes extremely well. Even with carrots, rosemary goes extremely well. When you cook it, it gives a very nice flavor. Don't use too much of a rosemary because it's very, very intense. Now, if you don't have a rosemary, you can always skip putting an herb. Do not put a thing like a coriander or a mint or a basil into your soup and then bring it to a boil because they are very delicate herbs. You need an herb which has got much more heavier flavor and can withstand cooking, and rosemary is one of those. So I want to just break it up into 2 and put it inside. In this, I am going to add some salt, a generous amount of salt, and water. Now although I am putting water here, but if you want to put a stock, for example a vegetable stock, or you want to put a chicken stock, it is entirely up to you. For me, plain water works well. Add enough water so that it really covers up the lentil and the pumpkin by at least 1.5 inches or even 2 inches. And at this stage, all you now do is going to bring this to a boil. Once you stir it once, it is just to make sure that the lentil and the butternut squash, not squash, is mixed up with the vegetables and the seasoning all mixes together. Now we're going to cook this till the lentil is cooked and the butternut squash is nice and soft. Lid on and leave for a good 15 to 20 minutes. What I will do as it cooks is also going to skim off the dirt which comes off from the cooking, which is the dirt. Take that off because that tends to discolor the soup. Now, while the soup is cooking, I'm now going to show you how to do my little garnish for the dish. Now you can have the soup plain on its own, it's perfectly okay, it works well. But again, us being chefs in restaurant, we always try and add a little extra dimension, make the food a little more interesting. So how do you do that in your own homes? So what I have in front of me right now here is basically in a bowl. I've got some chopped red onions, I've got some carrot, and I've got some cucumber. So it's more like a kachumber, like an Indian kachumber, which is an onion tomato mixture. But in this case, it's carrots, it's cucumber, and it's red onion. In this, I am going to add in a little boiled butternut squash. Now, this gives it a very nice flavor because butternut, again, you have it in the soup, and when you again get a bite to eat, it only enhances or it reconfirms the flavor of the butternut, and when you get to see it, it looks quite nice. In this, a little salt. Seasoning is very important, and a good squeeze of lemon juice. So lemon juice gives it a kind of a citric tang to your dish. Now, butternut squash on its own is actually slightly sweet, so it needs a little kick. And you should remember, I had put the onion and I put some green chili in that. Now, I only put 2 green chili because that will give it enough kick to give it the flavor. So it's not going to be quite bland, it's going to be quite flavorful as such. Not too strong, not too sharp, but just a little kick into it. Now the lemon along with that really cuts it down, cuts out the spice factor, but brings out the flavors. When you get to eat something which has got a citric flavor to it and a nice tang, it brings out the flavor of the dish together. So very important that your seasoning and your acidity complements each other quite well. So think of in your mind, in your palate, flavors of sweetness, of sourness, of piquancy, and subtle flavors coming through. How do you enhance it? So by additions of a little bit of paprika, for example, a little bit of chili, a little bit of lemon juice, some fresh herbs, it brings it all together. It tickles your palate, and that is what good food should do. It should make you want to eat more. So in this, there's basically butternut squash, there's salt, there's lemon juice, there's cucumber, there's carrot and red onion. Just going to mix that together, and that is going to go onto the soup. It's very important that you learn to plate also quite well. Make your food a little more interesting. So this is done. I'll keep it onto a side and have a look at my soup. It's still got a while to go. Now as you see, the soup is now coming to a boil, and as it begins to slightly come to a rumbling boil, there's a lot of scum which comes onto the top. Now this is actually dirt. Although I've washed the lentils and the vegetables a few times, but there's still dirt in the lentil which begins to come up. Now if I let this boil as it is, it's going to make it slightly discolored, the soup. It will not come out very nice in color. So the best thing is to just skim off this dirt from the top. There we have a little stir again. Lid on and back to a boil. Now, if you are using a pressure cooker, then you save a lot of time. This can take quite a while because lentils are quite firm, although I've soaked it, but still they take a long while to cook. But if you have a pressure cooker at home, it will literally cut down your time by a quarter. Now this could take at least 25 minutes for it to cook through. But once it's done, the lentil breaks down, and so does the butternut squash, and you get a very nice kind of a thick mixture, which we're then going to convert it into a soup. Time to have a little look. Oh, look at that. It's bubbling away nicely. And you can see the color. It is so nice and vibrant. Look at that. The lentils are almost, they look cooked. Yes, they are. And let's have a look at this. Look at that. Ooh. The butternut squash has just broken down. But that tells me that the lentils are ready and the butternut squash is cooked. So at this stage, I'm going to stir it around. I'm not going to scrape the sides because a bit of the dirt has gone in, which is fine. So it doesn't make it cloudy as such. So let it stay where it is. I'm going to switch off the heat. And as I switch off the heat, I'm now going to start taking out the stalks of the rosemary. Remember the stalks? Had the rosemary sprig in that. Now I'm going to blitz the soup. So if I keep the stalks in there, it won't really blitz properly. This won't really break down. But the rest will just churn and become nice and smooth. I'm going to now blitz the soup. So I've got a hand blender here. And all I have to do is whisk it up till it becomes nice and smooth. So the lentil breaks down, the butternut breaks down, you get a very nice, simple, smooth soup. The soup is now done. It's got a nice puree, nice and smooth, as you can see. Now in this soup there is absolutely no butter, no cream, there's no fat in this at all. I am not going to add any cream or butter. Normally when people make soups, they tend to put some cream in them, or they add some butter that allows you to finish it off. This is going to be absolutely vegan, so there's going to be no dairy products at all. I will put a little olive oil because I'm going to now temper the dish. So the soup is done. All I have to do now is to check for the seasoning, check for salt. Oh, that is nice. Has a very nice kind of a lentil flavor to it. Has got a very nice little kick of the green chili. But you can see the color there, it's all very natural. All I put were 2 spice powders. The turmeric powder which gives it the yellowness, and the red chili gives it a slight kick along with the green chili. I am going to add a little lemon juice because I think it needs a little freshness, a little bit of acidity to come as a flavor. So that goes in now. And what I will do, I'm actually going to make a tempering or a tadka. Now for the tempering, I'm going to use 2 spices here. I'm going to use cumin seed and I'm going to use fennel seeds. Just a few flavors. Because I just think when you make a dal as such or a lentil, it's nice to have a kind of a tempering, gives a kind of freshness to the dish. So I'm going to temper that with some cumin, some fennel and a little bit of garlic. So I have a heavy bottom pan here for the tadka or the tempering. In this I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil. Now you can use vegetable oil, you can use corn oil, you can use sunflower oil. Never use an extra virgin olive oil, just normal olive oil is fine. Not too much, a little bit. In this goes in my cumin seeds and my fennel seeds to reduce the heat down. A small amount of garlic. The garlic works quite well in terms of flavoring. So just want to sweat the garlic along with the spices with the oil. Now when you put a tempering and you add your spice, what that does is it begins to flavor the oil, and that is how you actually impart flavors into your dish. So heat up the oil, never cold oil, just at medium heat, and then you add in your spices. So in this case there is fennel and there is cumin, and I put garlic. Now if you like it spicy and you want to make it a bit more chili, you can always add crushed chilies, or you can add a green chili into it, it will work well. Some people also like to add a bit of ginger in this, even that could work well. I'm just showing you a very basic one because I feel with butternut squash you can always put a bit of fennel and a bit of cumin, because cumin gives it a kind of a smoky flavor and the fennel gives a kind of a sweet undertone, kind of a licorice flavor to the soup. So this is almost ready. As you can see, the spices have just about cooked through. I mean, the aroma is very nice. You can literally smell the cumin, the garlic and the fennel seeds. And all we do now is we pour this spice mixture onto the soup. As simple as that. We stir that in. So all the flavors of the spices have now gone into the soup. And now for the best part. If you're going to make the soup look nice, we're going to present it into a very nice manner. Like I said, the best part now is to actually put the food onto a plate. And I always tell all my friends and family that when you actually cook food at home, you take so much of effort to make some fantastic food. Always try and make that extra effort to make it look nice. So there are a few things you must do to make it a little more interesting. So when your family or your guests see it and say, wow, that is so nice, that little effort really goes a long way. So the first thing you do is you buy a nice kind of a serviceware. You know, soup in a bowl on its own works fantastically well, flavors are nice. But how do you make it more interesting? So in restaurants, we use a lot of props like your serviceware are very important. How do you make it look nice? Garnishes are very important. How do you put some little garnish to make it look quite nice? What I'm going to show you now is a very simple technique. Invest into a steel ring mold as such, because these are very good to hold food onto the plate. So they shape quite well. And that really, it enhances the eye appeal of the dish. So if you remember, we had done the little salsa or the kachumber, which was made out of pumpkin, red onion, carrot and cucumber, some salt and lemon juice. So this goes into the center or the well of the ring mold. Don't forget, the butternut squash is actually cooked or boiled, so when you actually put it onto the plate, it will tend to slightly get mashed as you press it down. And all you do is with the back of the spoon, you press the vegetable mixture down. And like I said, because it is cooked, it tends to become slightly mushy, gets a little mashed. I'm going to add a little more. Now think of the flavors in your mind. You are going to have a soup which has got nice and smooth texture. It's got a few spice seeds in them, the fennel and the cumin. But the texture is actually going to come from this, from the little salad which you have made or the salsa which you have made. This is going to really help and lift the flavors quite well. So that is done. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of pumpkin seeds to go on top. A little red chili flakes. Now when you serve it in the restaurant, we just don't put a pot onto the table, or we don't serve it as it is with the soup filled up, because it tends to move around and doesn't look nice. We try and put the soup into a little teapot, and when you put it into a teapot, you take it to the table and then you serve it. It is more dramatic and theatric, and the guest says, wow. The first thing they do is they take out the cameras and they take a picture, and that is the kind of a feel we want the guest to have. A little extra, always go a little extra mile for your guest. Make the food a little more interesting. So the soup, now look at the color of the bowl, look at the salad, and look at the color of the soup as I pour it. Can you see that? It's such a nice, vibrant color. And all we do is pour the soup around the salad. This is ready. And then with the back of the spoon, just press it down gently and you lift. And there you have it. A very simple, heartwarming soup. One thing I've forgotten is to put a little garnish. I'm going to quickly run out to my garden, get a flower and come back. So there you have it. I've finally got my flower, which I'm going to put on a little garnish onto the soup. There we are. A very simple red lentil butternut squash soup cooked with a very few spices and herbs, but absolutely flavorful. Simple, vegan dish, no butter, no dairy, extremely light, extremely healthy and extremely delicious and colorful. So make sure you make it for your friends and family, and do not forget to tag me. So until next time, happy cooking.